The polished marble floor of the bank echoed with every step. My brother, Daniel, raised his voice so loud the entire lobby seemed to freeze. His words cut through the quiet hum of counting machines. She's broke. The sentence hung in the air like a slap. A couple waiting near the teller window glanced at me, their eyes narrowing with pity. One woman whispered behind her hand, another man gave a low chuckle. Even the smell of polished wood and fresh ink felt heavy, pressing against my chest. Daniel leaned closer to the crowd, smirking as if he had won some cruel game. His finger jabbed toward me, like I was nothing more than an empty account. I stayed silent, my heart pounding, but my eyes never left his. What he didn't know, what none of them knew, was the truth waiting behind that vault door. Growing up with Daniel was like standing in someone else's shadow that stretched across every room. He was the golden child, always the loudest, always the one praised. At school, teachers called him promising, while I was just quiet Riley. At home, he wore pride like a crown, and I learned early that my victories never counted if they didn't shine as bright as his. When I graduated high school, I worked nights at the local diner. The smell of fried bacon and burnt coffee became part of me. Daniel never let me forget it. Serving tables doesn't build a future, he once sneered, tossing his sports jacket onto the couch like royalty shedding armor. My tips, my long shifts, my aching feet, they were invisible to him. I saved quietly, though. Every paycheck, every dollar slipped aside when no one was looking. Years passed, and the girl who was just a waitress learned how to study, how to plan, how to invest in something greater. But Daniel never saw that. To him, I was still the one wiping counters, still the one he could laugh at during family gatherings. The arrogance grew worse as he climbed through life, borrowing, spending, showing off what he didn't truly own. He surrounded himself with people who nodded when he bragged about business ventures that barely existed. His confidence was loud enough to drown out any doubt. And yet, the louder he got, the quieter I became, until now, inside the bank, his voice carried the same arrogance he'd perfected over the years. She's broke, he repeated, daring anyone to disagree. His tone turned the crowd into his audience, like he was performing a cruel play. The chuckles spread wider, a ripple of humiliation across the lobby, but I kept my hands still, resting them on the strap of my purse. My silence wasn't weakness anymore, it was patience. Behind the cold steel of that vault lay years of sacrifice, every hour I had worked, every lesson I had learned. Daniel thought this moment belonged to him, that the crowd's judgment would stamp me down once and for all. But what he didn't realize was that his stage was about to collapse. And when it did, the applause would not be his to claim. Daniel wasn't finished. His voice carried through the lobby, smooth and cruel, as if he'd been rehearsing this moment for years. Look at her, he said, his smirk spreading. Standing here like she owns something. The truth is, she doesn't even have enough to buy lunch. A ripple of laughter drifted across the room. An older man in a brown coat shook his head slowly, pity in his eyes. A young teller glanced at me nervously, as if unsure whether to join in or stay silent. The polished counters, the ticking of the wall clock, even the faint scent of ink and currency all seemed to tighten around me like a cage. I could feel every gaze pressing into my back. It was the same weight I had carried since childhood, the weight of being underestimated. My cheeks warmed, but I lifted my chin. Daniel wanted me to shrink, to crumble into the marble floor, but instead I let the silence stretch. See? Daniel continued, laughing sharply. She has nothing to say because she has nothing at all. He turned to the manager, Mr. Clark, who had just stepped out of his glass office. Why don't you tell her, huh? Show her the truth, the vault doesn't lie. All eyes followed Mr. Clark. His expression was steady, professional, but his pause made the crowd lean forward, hungry for the spectacle Daniel had promised. The murmurs grew louder, footsteps shuffled, and even the security guard near the entrance tilted his head, curious. I remained still, only my heartbeat quickening. I wanted to speak, but no words were needed. Daniel's arrogance was writing the story for me, building it higher and higher until the fall would break harder than he could imagine. Go ahead, Daniel pressed, his voice almost triumphant. Open it. Show her. Let everyone see what a failure looks like. The crowd shifted uneasily. Some smiled at the cruelty, others frowned, but no one moved to stop him. I let my eyes sweep across the faces, strangers judging, strangers deciding who I was. My fingers brushed the edge of my purse again, grounding me. Patience, Riley, I told myself. Let him climb. Let him laugh. Because when the door swings open, it won't be my silence that fills the room. It will be his. The manager, Mr. Clark, adjusted his glasses and stepped forward. The entire bank seemed to hold its breath as his key scraped into the vault's lock. The heavy steel door groaned, and the sound echoed like thunder rolling through the marble lobby. Daniel folded his arms, grinning wide. This will be quick, he muttered, just loud enough for everyone to hear. She's broke. The crowd nodded quietly, some whispering, others smirking, their judgment already passed. My stomach tightened, but I didn't flinch. My silence carried more weight now than his words ever could. The door clicked. Slowly, the vault swung open. Light from the ceiling struck the rows of deposit boxes, the polished brass gleaming like treasure waiting in shadows. Mr. Clark reached for one in the center, pulling out a thick folder with my name stamped across the front. "Miss Riley," he said clearly, his voice cutting through the hush, "this vault is all hers." A gasp tore through the room. Head snapped toward me, eyes widening, mouths falling open. The whispers turned into stunned silence. A woman who had chuckled earlier pressed her hand to her lips. The man in the brown coat blinked twice, as if unsure whether he'd heard correctly. Daniel's eyes. The smirk vanished. His face drained of color, his lips parting but no words coming out. For the first time in years, he was silent. Mr. Clark laid the folder on the counter, pages spilling with deeds, investments, and years of records, proof of everything I had quietly built. My hard work, my sacrifices, my late nights had formed into something undeniable. It's all hers," Mr. Clark repeated firmly, as though stamping the truth into stone. The crowd shifted. Some nodded with respect, others glanced away in embarrassment, ashamed of their quick judgment. The atmosphere had flipped. Where pity once lingered, dignity now stood taller than every sneer. Daniel's shoulders sagged. His arms, once crossed with arrogance, now hung limp at his sides. His eyes darted from the folder to the faces around him, desperate for someone to laugh with him. But there was no laughter left. Only silence, and the sting of humiliation painted across his pale face. The silence in the lobby stretched on, heavier than any insult Daniel had ever thrown at me. He shifted his weight, his once proud posture collapsing into something small, almost fragile. For years, he had built his power on laughter, on mocking me in front of others. But now, that laughter had been ripped from him, replaced by a silence that belonged to me. I closed the folder gently, my hand steady. "I told you, Daniel," I said softly, so only those closest could hear. "What you see on the surface is never the whole story." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. An older woman near the door gave me the faintest nod, her expression one of quiet respect. Even the teller who had giggled before now lowered her eyes, ashamed. Daniel opened his mouth, but no words came. His face was pale, his smirk long gone. He had wanted a stage, and he had gotten one, but he didn't expect to be the fool on it. I didn't need to gloat. I didn't need to shout. The truth was louder than anything I could say. So I lifted my purse, held my head high, and walked toward the exit. The marble floor no longer echoed with his mockery. It echoed with my dignity. As I passed the manager's office, Mr. Clark gave a respectful nod. "Well done, Miss Riley," he murmured. It wasn't about the vault or the papers anymore. It was about being seen for who I really was, not who Daniel had tried to convince the world I would always be. The crowd parted as I left, their eyes following me not with pity, but with admiration. Some whispered my name, others simply stepped aside. Every step toward the sunlight outside felt lighter, stronger, freer. Behind me, Daniel remained frozen in the lobby, his arrogance shattered like glass. The same brother who once mocked me had been silenced not by anger, but by truth. Outside, the air was fresh and cool. I inhaled deeply, letting the weight of years slip away, because in the end, respect isn't bought with arrogance or stolen with lies. It's earned with patience, with perseverance, and with dignity. Moral: respect will always outshine arrogance.